Welcome everyone again. So it's Howard Sharon here presenting this live webinar from Trewirgie School. They're going to talk to us today about raising attainment with wellbeing and their journey to wellbeing using what we call RaW. Presenting the school panel presenting this webinar is Dan Wills, who's the Senior Mental Health Lead, Nick Cogden, the Head Teacher. Thanks both of you for coming along, and the Assistant Head, Vari Saville. Vari Saville. They're going to talk to you today about what has been a totally exciting journey for them and us. They were one of the first, or the first, Gold Award winners for raising attainment with wellbeing. They presented us with a totally outstanding submission for their Gold Award, and it showed a huge amount of work that they did, both in terms of developing their activities and strategies, but also how they used RaW to really deepen their commitment and interest across the whole school. So with that, I'd like to hand over to the panel, and I'm very much looking forward to this webinar, and I hope you will be too. During the webinar, Daniel, our technician on the webinar, will be sending out a form for you to fill out if you're interested in taking this whole process further. There is a special reduction for schools linked to Trewirgie because they're one of our great pioneers, and which will mean that schools taking RaW forward will get quite a significant reduction. So with that, Dan, I'd like to hand over to you and to Nick, and I'm looking forward very much to your webinar.
Thank you for that, Howard. I'll just load up the presentation. Hopefully you can all see that.
Yeah.
Just a touch of housekeeping to start with, which I think everyone's already doing. Make sure your cameras are off during the presentation, and keep microphones muted so that you can listen to what we're sharing and there's no distractions. The chat is open for questions, and there'll be time at the end for you to ask us any questions after. So Howard introduced the three of us, but our wellbeing team stretches far beyond who's here today. So we've got our Senko, Mr. Voisey, who has a whole load of roles, along with Mrs. Devaney and Miss Solomon, who are pastoral champions. And then we're very lucky to also have a school counsellor as part of our team, which we'll talk about further on in the presentation.
Okay, so just give you a little bit of context with the school. So we're a junior school, so year 3 to year 6. We've got 3 form entry. It is in an area of social deprivation, which unfortunately has increased with the pandemic, and added to that the cost of living crisis. National statistics did show that Redruth was the 3rd most deprived area in Cornwall, and of course in the top 10% area of the UK. So currently for our school, just to give you a bit more context on our SEN numbers, pupil premium, we've got 357 on roll, and 18.2% of that are the children on the SEND register, and then we've got 29.4 who are pupil premium. So if you have a look at our vision, there's lots of pictures of our legacies and things there, but you know, our mental health and wellbeing is at the heart of everything that we do. Our approach to provide an education that allows our children to make a difference, have an impact, and leave a legacy. Now, this does form the foundation of everything we plan, everything we develop, everything we implement. The children are very much encouraged to be involved in each and every part of this, and child voice is an integral part of our children's school journey. Now, we really hope that our children become emotionally intelligent and literate, and as well be prepared for an adulthood that is yet to be determined. And this in itself is a continually developing process.
So our team initially started out with me and Miss Wills, who was our counsellor, and post-COVID, everything shut down. All the services either had no funding or they became inundated with referrals. And so prior to picking up RaW, we decided to increase our team into something that looks like a secondary school based setup with pastoral leads in year groups, responsible for a smaller group of children. And then RaW kind of fell into our lap through Teaching Times. And we thought that because of what we had in place, doing this would further help to progress that, but also reinforce that what we're doing is the right thing to do for our children. So the first step to RaW is looking at your initial evaluation, and that's done through their auditing tool, of which there's 10 key questions. We scored this as a team, putting together our individual thoughts. I think the more brains you have looking at this, the clearer your scores are going to be. And we scored quite highly in them because of the provision that we already had in place, which we'll show you. But there were also areas that we knew we could develop further. One of those being question 3, all teaching and support staff are aware that bad behaviour is a form of communication. And we also looked at neurodiversity and how we could improve that. This moves on to 4 questions to help you use RaW to grow. You look at your goals and your chosen key areas to develop. You do a reality check in looking at what your strengths already are, the options that you can take to better improve and meet your goals that you set with your coach, and then the way forward, which is the milestones where you can see that you've achieved what you were looking for. So the 2 goals, the deepening understanding of staff's knowledge of mental health and wellbeing. At the time that we applied for the award, there were 3,800, so almost 4,000 open referrals to CAMHS. And those are children that aren't being seen, aren't being supported. So if we could empower our staff with the knowledge to support those children at an early level without the ability to diagnose, we're already helping those families that are in the system. And also deepen the understanding of all staff that bad behaviour is a form of communication. We've not long started introducing restorative justice and restorative practice into school, and this kind of fit hand in hand with what we were building on already in our behaviour policy.
In terms of the reality check, we at Trewirgie believe we are incredibly lucky to have a collection of staff who are highly supportive to our ethos and our approach, and all are on board with what we're doing. They're emotionally intelligent staff who are constantly developing their own skills at being in tune to the emotional needs of our children. All of our staff have actually been trained by our school counsellor in how to be an emotionally available adult, and our children independently are able to access these adults for support when and where they need it. This is also supported further by our bespoke curriculum, which allows for real and relevant learning. So our children within our curriculum are encouraged to celebrate diversity and learn about the importance of being unique and different. They're encouraged to be pioneers, as we call them, of their own learning, and not to be afraid of standing out from the crowd and seeing things from a different perspective. As a school, we're also really lucky that we're recognised as a gold rights respecting school, and child voice, as Mrs. Hodgson said earlier, is an integral part of our curriculum and in everyday decisions that we make with our school. We have champion groups across the school and across the year groups who work with teachers and with curricular areas in order to champion the rights of their peers and to innovate new ways in which we can facilitate the ideas and the child's voice. And that's a continually ongoing process and something that we're always working on. Our school is also a trauma-informed school, and our wellbeing team that you were introduced to on the earlier slide are trained practitioners and use various approaches to the TIS approach. One such approach that they use is the use of PACE, and this approach uses play and interaction to build positive, safe and secure attachments that then allow the children to share how they're feeling or what they're experiencing with an adult. That can empathise and thoughtfully question further. This also makes the child feel valued and accepted, and has been a really fundamental process. The other thing that we're lucky to have is a trained counsellor, a registered counsellor on our school wellbeing team, and children are seen again when needed and given, if necessarily, weekly sessions, or it can be a process that is ongoing and open-ended. Support is given one-to-one and is obviously at one end for children experiencing complex grief and trauma, to those children who just need to make sense of the world that they're currently experiencing and become more emotionally literate. And this could obviously be as a result of something that's happening both in school and also out of school.
Okay, we've got a couple of projects that we do actually, which are sort of outside interventions. They're not in the school. One of them is the WAVE project. So this is a 6-week program, and it's based on the beach in Newquay, and it's run by teachers who are also surfers. And what happens is they go there for 6 weeks, and yes, they get to go surfing, but what it does is it blends the surf therapy and education to help the pupils get more inspired. It motivates them and hopefully re-engage them with school life. All of their lessons that they do on the beach are all in line with the national curriculum. We get weekly reports back from each child after each session, and then when the 6 weeks is up, we then get another more full report from the children and how they've done and the impact that it's had on them. And we only did it for the first time last year. We've already got the next lot signed up for this summer, but it was an incredibly positive program. So moving on to that, this kind of happened because of the WAVE project. So one of our teachers that were going to the WAVE project is very keen on BMXing and does a lot of work down at the bike track at Portreath, which is just down the road from us. And he's kind of set up the equivalent of the WAVE project, but he's called it the track. So the children again have a 6-week block, and they go down once a week, and they get to yes, they do ride the bikes, although the picture in the middle here, this young lady couldn't ride a bike, but by the end of her first day she could ride a bike, and she even managed to go up and over a little ramp. I can't tell you how much that built her confidence and how proud she was with that. They come back buzzing. I drive them there in the minibus, and there's only 6 children in it, and it's incredibly loud because they don't stop talking about what they've done and how much they've enjoyed the day. On top of that, there's 2 certificates they can earn as well. There's a level 1, which is riding a bike safely, and level 2, which builds in a bit of bike maintenance linked with changing a tire, flat tire, or a chain. We've just run 3 programs of this, and it's been really successful. It's definitely built their confidence and self-esteem. It has helped develop resilience for them. But one of the other things that's happened is it's actually improved attendance as well. One of the little children there, he said to me, "I love Wednesdays." He said, "I hear the alarm and I wake up and I jump out of bed and say, yay, it's track day." So this has been a really successful one. So we do hope to keep this one going.
So that's where we stood before the award, and then we now look at what we've used RaW for to better what we had in place. So we applied for the Gold Award. There's 3 different awards that you can look at. The Gold Award would give us access to a specialised coach who was a godsend throughout, and we had 16 hours, and that can be used as you wish. We utilised her to meet with our wellbeing team. She did some sessions on resilient classrooms with our learning assistants, and then also put on a session during a staff meeting. But you can use them to whatever needs you have in your setting. And you get a huge amount of resources that you can use. Part of the award is for 2 members of staff to complete all of the units. And they're not long and laborious units. They're good to look at. You can dip in and dip out as you wish throughout the year. And we gave all of our teachers access to this as well, because they could, although they didn't have to complete all units, they could look at an area that might fit their classroom. It could be an area they're interested in for CPD, and take information from that. Or as we've done, we used a whole section for our behaviour lead to take staff meetings, Nelly meetings on the making sense of behaviour. The pictures that we've got here are ones that you are given in the RaW units that you can use. And we also developed spiky profiles and looked at our SEN provision for neurodiversity children. And this is an example of a page that we've now created that are developed for children on the SEN register. It has their areas of need, it has what supports them and what's in place for them, because the teacher can't always be with their children. And there's going to be times where they're off, there's going to be times where they're not in their classroom and they're somewhere else. And through the learning that we picked up from RaW, we realised it was important that all staff had knowledge of their children, but it had to be kept safe and secure. And this was a good way of being able to share with a supply teacher or a new LA that was coming in that this is their needs, it's quick and easy, and it helps set them up for the day.
Through the journey of RaW, we recognised that an area of development was the need, as we said before, to promote resilient classrooms. And we did this through, as Dan said, some training sessions with how we could develop our classroom provision. What I'm going to just show you now, though, is a video of how we adapted our curriculum to enable our children to develop their skills as learning in both an innovative and creative way. So we'll watch that.
Hi guys, come on an adventure with me to see how we learn Trewirgie. And what's it like? Learning at Trewirgie is fun! Fascinating. Active. Messy. Innovative. Thought-provoking. Central question. Guys, what do you think Cornwall has to offer? Got some really good beaches. Could have some more there. Offers really good potential. Guys, do you think life is fair? Not always. Where's the safest place in the world? I wouldn't like to live in a volcano. Me neither. Wouldn't like to live in a tornado. Do you think we could survive war and conflict? No. Yeah. With bombs dropping everywhere, it would be so tough. Yeah.
What's the next dinosaur going to look like?
Well, we need to take off our planet and hopefully not be another.
Hopefully.
Yeah. And then we make a list. Trewirgie, we have 5 different elements of learning. First, we discover and find out something new.
As we get into our learning, our understanding deepens.
And then we practice. And then we troubleshoot. This is where we see where our learning goes wrong and try to fix it.
Finally, we pioneer. This is my favourite part of learning, where our learning can get original and creative.
Oh, this fudge is so sweet. Here, what?
It's really good, but has sugar always been so sweet?
No, 15th century used slaves to get the sugar.
Because if you work for someone to pick it, it ends up they get something and you've done all the work.
Well, at least every bag of fudge that we sell is going to a charity, UNICEF. Yeah, and we can raise awareness of what happened in the 15th century.
Aren't the labels so nice with our Indigenous people on them? And at the back of every label, then we're going to raise awareness of what happened in the 15th century. The great thing about learning at Trewirgie Junior School is we always find the answer to our essential question.
At least we know that water should be free now.
Yeah, can you believe that every 2 minutes a child dies from a lack of clean water?
But think of how much money we raised to those communities that needed it the most.
I can't imagine being a refugee, having your country fall apart. I'd be horrified. I'd be terrified. At least our books that we made will help educate about those who are coming back home.
Guys, can you believe that we raised over £4,000 for the food bank?
I know, it's amazing.
I know. Our community calendar was amazing.
Climate change is so important. Think of all those endangered animals. But we helped 32, and I'm sure that will make a big difference. Think of all the signboards we made. I'm sure that they will inform the people of Cornwall about our heritage.
Reading about natural disasters makes me glad that we have raised so much money for shelter box.
Thank you for joining us on our learning journey.
So as you can see from this slide, we've used the RaW resources to support our children in a number of ways. It enables us to create a secure environment in which the children feel part of a team, to learn, to make mistakes, to troubleshoot and overcome any obstacles that have appeared. We have a positive approach to learning, which is modelled by everyone across the school, from the children to the adults to the learning assistants. And ultimately, what we're hoping is that our children feel safe to make their decisions and have choices and have the confidence to innovate their ideas.
So after a huge amount of work in a short space of time with, as Howard said, a mammoth PowerPoint of 80 odd slides full of media, this is where we sat at with our final evaluation. The same team that put the initial evaluation together put this together. But this time we also had the backing of our coach, who provided our supporting statement that showed that we had met our goals and that we were eligible to receive the Gold Award.
And of course, the question to all of this is we're looking at raising attainment through wellbeing. It isn't about data, but this is a good way to show you that actually all the things that we are doing is helping. If we look at our SATs results from last year with our year sixes, just to put it into context, we had 108 children in the year group and 33 of them were disadvantaged. So reading for us was, our school was 66.7% for the disadvantaged children, and the national average disadvantage was 60%. So writing for us, our disadvantage was 69.7%. And the national average disadvantage was 58%, and maths for us was 63.6% and national average 58.8%. So you can see that our disadvantaged children achieved well above all other disadvantaged children and national averages.
And then our outcomes. So with the support of RaW, it sharpened the focus on the connection between wellbeing and achievement. We used a lot of their resources. and that enabled us to target the training for all of our staff. But it also gave us an opportunity to sit back and look at what we've already got in place, which sometimes is very easy to take for granted. We looked at what we were doing and we were able to reassess it and tweak things that weren't quite working, bring in new things, which we'll talk about in a moment. But it also opened up dialogue between all of our staff, and made mental health less of a taboo to talk about in the school. So because of this, we feel we now have a far greater understanding of what lies beneath the surface. The types of attitude and behaviour that are communicated to us can flag up for various reasons, and it's not just the bad behaviour. We've targeted nurture groups. Children have built resilience. They're a lot happier to make mistakes, and they accept the joy and praise that we celebrate every week with our children. And then our coach and Marius came down to visit our school at the end of last year, came away with pasties and saffron buns, just to kind of feel the environment that this place is. No PowerPoint, no presentation, no webinar could ever show you truly what our school is like to be a part of. But by coming in and being part of that and being with the children, they were able to experience what we get to experience every day.
And of course the future, because since we've been awarded this, the Gold Award, we've completed it and we've recognised that, you know, we've put a huge amount of support in for our children, particularly the vulnerable and the disadvantaged ones. And there is a recognition, as touched on earlier, you know, with services stretched, you know, people can't get GP appointments, cost of living's hitting the families. So we've opened up something called the Parent Hub, which we've used to try and help and support the parents as well as the children. So you can see some photographs of it there. It's a very friendly space. It's got sofas, it's got lots of toys and child facilities there. It's got baby changing facilities as well, tea, coffee, hot chocolate and marshmallows if you want it. We've used it for a multitude of things. We've had support from external agencies and we've hosted the space parenting program there. We've had Healthy Cornwall have come in and they've done a series of cooking healthily on a budget. That's been incredibly popular. In fact, they've had to extend it. So what they do is once they've made the food, they make enough for 4 people and they get to take that food home and then they share it with their family that evening. We've had family support workers come in for drop-ins. We've had parish nurse drop-ins. We've got various other plans in the future to develop it even further. One of the good things is we're able to distribute food bank vouchers, which I think parents find us possibly a little bit more approachable to come and ask rather than other areas in which they can achieve them. And then because of what we're doing, word's got around a little bit. A few people have contacted us, and the nice thing is other schools have contacted us as well, and they've started coming around for visits. And it's really nice that, you know, we're more than happy to offer any support in developing any wellbeing provision or add into some provision that they already have. So this has been a really successful project.
Yeah, and that's kind of it. Thank you so much for tuning in. And there's time for any questions if anybody has one.
I've got a question if I can.
Of course you can.
Some schools opt for RaW without a coach. Do you think that would have been a negative thing for you? I know you mentioned resilience, but for instance, what in detail did the coach do to support resilience in the classroom?
So the coach put on sessions for our LAs and for our teaching staff, all around her knowledge of resilience using Boyne Classroom. And so she knew what we did already, but it was about getting that extra knowledge from her and her expertise and background so that we could further that. I think Chris, our coach, was like our comfort blanket through the whole process because it was new to us. And it's easy for us to say, this is right, this is wrong, we do this, and this is how it's going to be. But to have someone outside of our school, outside of our county, who doesn't know of Trewirgie, to have them talk to us about their experience and the work they do with other schools, and cherry pick and pigeon ideas from her, it's a real help. And I'd recommend using a coach to any school that picks up the RaW award.
Thanks. Yeah, very, very inspiring session. The video was great. Thanks so much. Are there any other questions? I'm quite interested, by the way. I know I shouldn't push myself forward too much, but I'm quite interested in the way the counsellor fitted in with RaW and how everything worked together.
There was a slight disconnect because I don't think many schools have a trained counsellor.
No, that's quite unusual, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's a huge commodity for us because for children to receive counselling, it takes a very long time to get there. And although she works with our highest of needs, she specialises in bereavement training, bereavement counselling, and trauma counselling. But she's also there for that well-being and nurture, because that's the kind of people counsellors naturally are. And so what we shared with our coach and with the RaW team was some work that she had developed herself alongside this. So she's developed a program called Vocal, which I can't share today. We don't have all the stuff for that. But that's now been passed on to Maris and Chris to look at and look at how we could implement something like that into RaW.
Oh, brilliant. So you're contributing to the program as well?
Yeah, so not only are we learning from you guys, but hopefully there's some things that you've taken away from what we had in place before we started RaW that might benefit other schools. That's not me saying every school should have a counsellor, because it's not possible. But if you can have someone that can support children emotionally and react to that trauma and bereavement and those highest levels of need, you're really going to see a difference between using that than waiting weeks or months for a counsellor.
And has the whole school environment, you know, I know it's hard to put your finger on it, but the atmosphere and the environment and the culture of the school, has that changed much during the process with RaW?
I'd say it's definitely, I mean, it's been an evolving process for quite a few years. And I think, yes, if you come into the school, there's definitely a love, and we get commented on what a lovely environment it is, what a lovely feeling there is, how, you know, considerate the children and, you know, caring for each other. And yeah, so I think it's had a huge impact.
I think it's very calm as well, because the children are receiving all this well-being and support. It's actually breaking down those barriers that are in the way for them to come in and be ready to learn. So because we're putting this all into place, I think they're better placed in the classroom now, and more open to learning. And it is a lovely atmosphere when you walk around.
I think also it's the other thing I will say as well is that I do think it's helped us to develop our relationships with our parents as well.
I was going to ask about the parents. Yeah, what do the parents say?
I think they're really you know, on board, and I think they really appreciate all the extra provision that we're putting in place. We're very clear and, you know, talk to our children a lot about how they can access what support they need, who to go to, what's available. And I think, you know, the parents now know as well that if they feel that there's something that they would like help with, they're a lot more forthcoming. And I think that we're able, because of that, to tackle any problems that could be arising when they're smaller, and obviously stop them from escalating, really.
Yeah, and as you saw in the start of the presentation, we had a lot in place before RaW, but there isn't going to be a lot of schools that have that in place already. And I think looking through RaW, if we were a school that didn't have this wellbeing team and this provision, that would be a good way for you to start building that up, because everything you need is there for you to do what we do or what other schools do. And that it could be completely different to ours, and we're not saying that what we do is right, but we've proven that what we do works for our children, and that is having that support through RaW for that year that we developed our provision.
Right, great. And if local schools wanted to come and get support for RaW, they would be able to come to you and
absolutely,
get some advice.
Yeah, they can come on in, have a look around, or touch base and talk about the award itself. Or if they're going through the process, we can offer some support through that way. Anything we can do to help any school.
And we've actually had some of the sessions that we've run, we have actually had some parents from other schools locally that have come and joined in. So that's definitely there, and they know that the local schools, that if you know, they've got something they want to run and they need a space, we've got a space to support them. Obviously our infant school is next to us, and some of the parents from the infant school have also accessed what we've got going down in the parent hub, because ultimately they're going to become our parents too.
Right. I think we'd like to, I don't know if we've mentioned this to you yet, but it's just a new idea, but we'd very much like Trewirgie to become almost like a RaW hub for Cornwall, where, you know, we centre some activities around the school, if that's okay.
Sounds
just
amazing.
a developing idea up at the upper echelon. So that would be great. Well, should we end it there? Really great webinar. Totally enjoyed it. We'll be sending the school a copy, and all the people that have registered. If they would like to take RaW on, or to talk to the staff here about RaW, as you heard, they'd love to talk to you. We'd love to have you on board. So with that, I'd like to thank our team, our panel, for their brilliant presentation. And we look forward to hearing from you again. Thanks so much. Oh, by the way, you can always write an article for Teaching Times about your new initiatives. I think we've carried 2 articles already about Trewirgie, but they were great articles, and we're happy to carry more.
Get in touch, Howard.
Thanks so much.